So, very much welcome to our second session of this compassion training program. I'm recording the session, but only for this group's internal use. So if there are participants who have informed me in advance that they cannot participate today, so they will have the ability or the ability to watch the recording afterwards. But as said, very much welcome. We have again 2 hours booked for this. We will have a short break, and we're halfway through. And of course, feel free to, make yourself comfortable and hopefully make this session a kind of a moment of recovery and a moment of taking care of yourself. That's at least what I aim to with today's content. And that is also why we will start with a short breathing exercise. So if I can just invite you to join me in this exercise, you might want to straighten your back a little bit, maybe stretch your shoulders and your kind of rolling your shoulders a bit so that you get rid of the worst tensions. Maybe not all, but at least some. Stretching your neck, breathing as you do this. And then slowly finding a posture where you're in an upright position, where you feel awake and noble, but still relaxed. And you might want to check your jaw, because often we have lots of tensions in our jaw. So see if it's possible to just, relax your jaw. Let it just hang there. It's not so easy because, as said, we carry a lot of tension there unnoticingly. But try if you can just, relax your jaw. And then maybe closing your eyes if it feels comfortable. And then just breathe. And just allow your breath to take its own pace. This is not a breathing technique exercise, so you don't need to do anything about your breath. It can just be what it is. The rhythm, the length, the depth can be just as they are. You can let your breathing take care of you without forcing. Without performing, trying to find your optimal breathing. It can be just the way it is. And as you are sitting here and breathing, just see if it's possible to become aware of whatever is present for you right now. Be it thoughts, whatever there is in your mind, on your mind, just let it be. Maybe observing your thoughts for a while. Also, if you're hearing some sounds, such as my dog barking downstairs, just observe that. I will close the door after this. But just, whatever kind of appears during this meditation, it's a part of your experience. So you're hearing things, you're thinking things, you're feeling things. And the whole idea is to notice those, to become aware of those, and to just let them be. Take them as a part of your exercise. Also, if you notice some emotions rising, you can welcome them, label them. Oh, this is frustration. This is curiosity. This is joy. let them come and let them go. And if there's something happening in your body, if there is tension, maybe pain somewhere in your body, just acknowledging that. Maybe steering your breathing to that spot. And just exploring what happens when you think that you're breathing through that tense spot in your body, for example. Of course, we are not actually doing that, but imagining that you're doing it might help you notice something with that tension. Or maybe it helps you accept that there is this tension and I'm just going to breathe with it. So whatever there is present for you right now in this moment, see if it's possible to just accept it and just sit with it and breathe. And finally, adding a compassionate tone onto it all. So seeing yourself and your thoughts and your emotions and your body with kindness, acceptance. Compassion. And maybe thanking yourself for being here, prioritizing your own well-being, taking time for yourself. And then you can take a few more breaths in your own pace. There's no hurry. And once you feel that you're ready, you can end this exercise and open your eyes. Thank you. So I'm hoping that this short exercise helped you land into this situation and land into today, regardless of how your morning has started, somehow kind of checking in with yourself and noticing what's present for you today. And you might want to just now also consider that, how am I feeling now? How was I feeling before the short exercise? And how am I feeling now? You don't have to feel enlightened and relaxed and zen, but just kind of paying attention to what's happening and what you are experiencing while you are experiencing it. You might remember that from the last time. That's the definition of mindfulness, being mindfully aware, being mindfully present in your everyday moments. That's what we try to do here. Okay. So just a short recap from the last time. We talked about self-compassion and what it consists of. And we went through this kind of division into 3 different parts that build our self-compassion. Those are being mindful about what is happening, being kind to myself or ourselves instead of being judgmental, and then understanding that we all share this humanity, that it's human to be vulnerable and to be suffering, and it's not making me any different, but it makes me the same. And this can show in actual behaviors in our everyday life. So mindfulness, for example, means that whenever we are experiencing something upsetting, something difficult, something unpleasant, we are able to observe that. We're able to observe that now my emotions are trying to take over, so we can kind of regulate our emotions or feelings. And also we can have perspective to things. For example, if we fail, we can have perspective to things that this is not, I'm not a failure, but this was something that happened and maybe I can learn something from this. And having this kind of open and curious attitude towards our emotions, and especially when we are feeling sad or disappointed or whatever unpleasant. So somehow not resisting those emotions or denying them or wishing that we would not be feeling those, but instead turning towards them and having this warm and kind of accepting attitude and curious attitude towards what we are feeling. So that those would be mindful behaviors when we are trying to be self-compassionate. And then self-kindness again means that we are, well, it means what it is, that we are kind to ourselves, especially if we are having a hard time. Well, then taking care of ourselves just as we would to do to someone else, that when somebody is going through a rough path, of course we are trying to be tender and kind and help them in any ways we can. And it's so easy when it's a question of other people, but then also having that same kindness towards ourselves and having tolerance, having patience, having understanding that if I don't accept if I don't kind of wait that other people are perfect and flawless, well, maybe then I don't need to be perfect or flawless either. And then common humanity, that we would understand that whatever I am and however I behave, that's what people do, humans do. And this is just, my part of being human. And that everybody feels, overwhelmed or sad or not enough or whatnot, and that's just that's human. So those are self-compassionate behaviors, some of them at least. And the last time when we had our first session, we talked most about mindfulness. So and you maybe have started with your application, so you have started doing your mindfulness exercises, and maybe you have been thinking around these themes during the past couple of weeks. And now that's why I would like to ask you guys if you could share in the chat box that as you now are a little bit familiar with these themes. So have you noticed, or hopefully you have, but my question is that on how many days during a week, approximately, of course, there are no 100% correct answers, but on how many days during a week do you notice that you feel compassion towards yourself or towards somebody else? So if you notice that happening every day, you give a 7 days a week, or maybe every other day you can give a 3 or a 4, or maybe just once during a week, well, then you give the number 1. So answer by giving a number and then continue. When you notice that you are feeling compassion towards somebody else, or even towards yourself, what other emotions do you feel at the same time? So what do you notice rising within you when you are experiencing compassion? That's actually the question. So what I'm trying to get you to do is to kind of explore a little bit into your own, how do I experience compassion? What do I notice happening within me when I'm feeling compassion towards somebody else or towards myself? So please, if you could share something in the chat box, and I'm wishing that everybody shares, or if you prefer, you can also just unmute yourself and comment verbally, but please, now your turn. Okay, lovely, lovely answers. Thank you. And please keep on writing. 4 days a week, but it's hard to say about the other emotions. Yeah, it might be. But that's precisely why we are here, kind of learning to notice what we are experiencing. But you know, it's a good start to, first of all, to notice that, okay, I'm feeling compassion towards somebody. Other emotions, love and kindness, yes. Feeling like I need to smile, have a time off and start again. So maybe a short pause. It's okay. Life is not that bad after all. Other emotions could be first frustration, which turns to compassion. So maybe being frustrated with yourself or with somebody else, and then noticing, but okay, it's human. We all make mistakes or something. And then you're feeling compassion. Yeah. Reach a state above emotions. Whoa, that's the metacognition level, isn't it? That if you are kind of noticing what you are feeling and then you reach a state above that, kind of understanding that you are feeling, noticing that you are the feeler of those emotions. That's interesting. Yeah. Kind, soft, tender. Some emotions like love, proud, kindness. Yes, lovely. Strength and kindness. Yeah, strength. That's lovely as well, isn't it? That compassion gives you strength. Because how I interpret that, of course, Marika, it's your experience, but what I kind of come to think of, that when we are feeling compassion towards somebody, and we get this feeling of strength, it maybe comes from the idea that somehow we don't need to fight, we don't need to have an opinion, we don't need to somehow push anything, we can just accept. And that gives actually quite a lot of strength, because then I don't need to put my energy into resisting, for example, or something else. I can just understand and I can accept, and then I have energy to, you know, to think, how can I support, or how can I solve, or something else. It's lovely. Very nice comments and beautiful insights. Thank you guys for sharing. And also lovely to see that these things, at least on some level, already have started to, you know, be with you in your everyday life. And that's of course what we are aiming at, that this would be something that you take from these, you know, lectures to your life. So that's also why I'm kind of encouraging you to dig a little bit deeper. Thank you guys. Thanks. So today we are going to go to the second part of self-compassion. As you might remember, the last time we talked mainly about mindfulness. Today we are talking about self-kindness. And then the next time when we meet, we are talking about the third part, the sense of common humanity and shared humanity. But today we will be around self-kindness. Before, though, we go into that, I want to say a few words about the brain and how the brain works and why this is so important. Well, because the brain is neuroplastic, which means that the brain changes and develops throughout our lives. Each and every day of our lives, our brains are changing. And this is relatively new information, because up until the 90s, maybe mid-90s or something, this was not known. Research was not, you know, science was not able to study the brain in such a detail that we would have known this. Actually, on the contrary, it was thought that the brain develops until early adolescence, until 20 to 25 years of age or something like that, and then it's done. And then there's nothing to do about it, or actually only it goes, you know, downhill after that. And that was the kind of the understanding up until the 90s. Even when I was studying psychology in our, you know, study books, this was the kind of the fact. But then in the 90s, technology took such, you know, leaps forward, and brain scanning devices and technology and everything was so much developed that this phenomenon called neuroplasticity was found. And that kind of changed the whole theory. And instead of us thinking that the brain develops only for the first part of our lives, we now know that it actually develops to the last day of our lives. And that is called neuroplasticity. So the brain is kind of plastic. It can be molded throughout our lives. And what changes the brain, what develops the brain, is the way we use it, i.e. thinking. So thinking changes your brain and develops your brain, because thinking actually is a physical activity. And in this picture here, you can see within the circle there, you see this kind of star-shaped thing. That's a thought. So when we think a certain thought, it's actually a kind of a combination of synapses going together in our brain. So they are kind of exploding together, so to say. So it's a physical movement happening in our brain. And then the more we think a certain thought, the more we are repeating that movement, so that the kind of the combination is strengthened. And then slowly, when we keep on doing that, it's just as we would be doing, muscle exercises, and we keep repeating and repeating and repeating. Well, then of course the muscle gets stronger and bigger. The same thing happens with our thoughts in our brain. The thought becomes stronger, and the synapses first it's an electrical kind of what should I say, electrical impulse happening in our brain, but as we repeat, it starts to stick, and it becomes a chemical kind of combination. And that's when the structure of the brain has changed. So we have actually, through thinking, changed our brain. And that's a good thing, of course, because that means that we can affect our brains and we can help our brains. And that's why, for example, mindfulness meditation exercises are very good for your brain health, because that's a way of taking care of your brain. But on the other hand, neuroplasticity exists. Whether you are, aware of it or not, it exists, and it changes your brain also to the worse, so to say. And that's why it's so important to be aware of it, because it also has to do with this negativity bias that when we and this comes, of course, from very early ages of the evolution, that when our ancestors were, walking in the jungle and going past a bush, for example, minding their own business, not worrying about the thing, and then there's a lion jumping from the bush and trying to attack the human. Well, the next day the human walks along the same path and comes to the same bush. The human is afraid, is alerted, because yesterday there was a lion. So now, from now on, every day I'm going to be afraid of the bush, because there might be a lion. And that's what is negativity bias. So I'm prepared for the worst, even if there is no lion anymore, but there once has been. So it pays off to be, alerted, and to be kind of scanning your surroundings for danger. So we have this so-called danger radar going on all the time. So we tend to pay attention to and kind of repeat negative information much more than positive information. And then we continue doing that and kind of keep on doing it, and neuroplasticity then sees to that we kind of, it becomes a way of being, a way of thinking. And this negativity bias then leads to that we are kind of all the time wired. The danger radar is all the time on, and we are overestimating threats. Of course, not lions anymore in today's world, but we are overestimating demands and expectations and whatnot. I'm never going to make it, this is too hard for me, and so on and so forth. And we focus on all the negatives, and that also leads to that we prefer to avoid challenges. We prefer to not to do something instead of taking on challenges, because we are already wired for everything that can go wrong. And then we keep repeating that to ourselves, and then neuroplasticity sees to that this becomes the way that our brain works. So that's one thing to be aware of, because this is how our brains are built, and we can't do anything about that, but we can then help ourselves to kind of counter act this, so that at least it doesn't become any worse, or at least it doesn't kind of restrict us from achieving our goals or seeing possibilities instead of seeing dangers. And this negativity bias, well, then does that even if we would get 99 positive comments about yourself, and then you get one negative, that's the one you will remember, right? And I know this from my own experience, because, well, this is what I do for a living. I give trainings and lectures and speeches, and often I get feedback from those, and mainly, luckily, the feedback is good, it's positive, but of course, always there are people who did not like my style, or did not find the content relevant or something. So it might be that I get a feedback form where there are, say, 20 good feedbacks, and then somebody who said that didn't meet my expectations or something, and that's the feedback that I will remember for sure. All the others are kind of wiped off the table. If there's even one negative feedback, that's the one I'm going to remember. And that's the one that will be, haunting me when I'm preparing my next presentation or my next speech. So that's what it does to us, the negativity bias. And it has served a purpose back in the days in the jungle. But nowadays, it's not serving so much, is it? So it's good to be aware of this negativity bias. So that's one thing. Neuroplasticity and negativity bias together are steering us very much, or steering our attention very much towards the negatives, the challenges, the obstacles, the dangers. And then we are kind of reinforcing it through repeating it in our minds over and over again. That's one thing. And then another thing is mindsets, meaning that how do we see the world, or how do we see ourselves in the world? And here I've chosen the picture of eyeglasses, almost like mine here, because I think a good metaphor for these mindsets are glasses, that my mindset are the glasses that I put on in the morning and through which I look at the world. And depending on which glasses I put on in the morning, of course, the world looks different. And there's a theory about a fixed and growth mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. Also a book that I can recommend. That one I have here somewhere on my shelf, but I can send you information about that book as well. But Dr. Carol Dweck has been researching around these mindsets a lot, and actually her original research was about motivation. She wanted to study, well, motivation, and for example, for top athletes that are, training and practicing for big, say for the Olympics or something. So they are training, and their aim is in 4 years to reach the Olympics, and they are motivated, and then they come to the games, and then of course only one can win and the rest don't. So she wanted to study what keeps them motivated, and how do they overcome disappointments and challenges and so on. But what she found, she thought she was studying motivation, but what she actually found was mindsets, and she has called them fixed mindset and growth mindset, meaning the ways that we see the world, and actually especially ourselves. Fixed mindset means that I believe that I was born this way, that this is my potential, my character, my possibilities, that what I can and cannot do is something that I was born with, and I cannot change. Whereas growth mindset thinks that I can develop, I can change, I can learn, and there is potential that is still unknown to me because I'm not there yet. It's like, I believe many of you are familiar with Pippi Longstrump, Peppi Pitkätossu, who said that oh, that I have never tried before. I'm probably really good at it. So that's your growth mindset. But if you have your fixed mindset glasses on, it means that you are thinking that this is what I can, and I'm never going to be any better. So it's best that I don't even try anything else because I don't want to fail. And we mainly just want to, keep up the facades, that I would look smart and that I would kind of give the impression of having things under control. And it's best that I just stick to what I know. And if I get feedback, well, then that's just proof of the things that I did not, or that I cannot do, that I don't know. So if I get feedback, it's just proof to me and others as well that this is all that I can, and I can't improve. Whereas again, growth mindset means that if I don't know something yet, it just means that I don't know it yet. I can learn. At least I can try. And instead of trying to look smart, I try to, learn, open up new possibilities. If somebody that knows something or can something that I cannot, I don't need to be jealous or think that that's never going to be possible for me. But instead, I can go to them and ask, hey, how did you do that? I'd like to learn that as well. And if I fail, it's only an opportunity for me to understand that, okay, here I need to, develop more. And feedback naturally is just a kind of a picture of what I can at this point. But it's not a kind of just that this is where it is, and I'm not going to get any further. And I think really these glasses are a very good way of thinking about it, because if you would say here on the inside of your glasses, you would have your mindset such as, I'm no good in mathematics, for example, which is a kind of a traditional mindset, at least has been for me. So having those glasses on and looking at the world through those glasses, and then trying to do budgeting or, accounting or whatever, having those glasses on. I'm never going to learn this. I hate this. Why did I ever promise to do this? I would so much prefer not to do this. I'm just trying to, make it so that nobody notices that I can't. When instead, if I would take away those glasses and think of, okay, I don't know this yet, but maybe I can try. At least I can try. And there's a beautiful, beautiful key to this fixed mindset lock. And this is something that I at least notice myself using quite often nowadays, because fixed mindset is like your mind is locked, that this is the way things are and there's nothing I can do about it. So often you think, if you have the fixed mindset, that I can't do it. So the key to that lock is to add yet. I can't do it yet. I don't know how to do it yet. So adding yet will maybe open the lock from your fixed mindset towards your growth mindset. And now, of course, we all have both fixed and growth mindset. So it's maybe more a question of finding your mix and understanding in which areas you may have a fixed mindset, such as mathematics or creative writing or speaking in public or whatnot. We can have these fixed mindsets about ourselves in some areas, and then again we can have growth mindset in other areas, such as, well, it's easy for me to learn new languages, or it's easy to me to go into new social situations or whatnot. So there we can have a growth mindset. So learning, maybe observing yourself a little bit and learning about yourself, that where maybe I have this fixed mindset, and what if I would add yet? What would happen? Because that's then when you change your thinking patterns and you kind of you create this counter movement to your neuroplasticity and your negativity bias. So, but again, the key is to become aware. So we first need to be aware of these things in order then to be able to do differently. But if you're not aware, if you have a fixed mindset, we all have them, by the way, so don't blame yourself for having, we all have fixed mindsets. But if you have a fixed mindset about something, and then you have your negativity bias that you only see the bad stuff and the negatives and the dangers and the threats, and then your neuroplasticity takes care of that. This is what you keep repeating to yourself all the time. Well, then odds are that it's not easy, at least, to kind of overcome those challenges. But becoming aware of this, becoming aware of that, okay, I'm having this fixed mindset, but maybe if I added yet, and I tend to focus, pay attention on the negatives. Was there something positive still? Is there something that I can learn from this, that, or maybe kind of lift up the positives here? And what if I would just think differently? The neuroplasticity creates these thinking patterns, as I explained, or beliefs or paradigms or mindsets. And I often think of them as paths in the forest. So if I always take the same path, I'm no good in mathematics or whatnot, so I kind of always walk along the same path in my mental forest. Of course, that path becomes wider and, easier to walk along because I've been stomping it, year in and year out. And now what kind of becoming aware means that I notice the path, that, oh gosh, I've been walking along that path my whole life, but there's a whole forest. Maybe I can just walk a different path. Maybe I can just think that I'm no good in mathematics yet, and then I will choose another path. And you don't need to unlearn from the old paths, but what happens when you stop stomping the old path, it is that it will grow again, it will disappear. The kind of the thinking model that you have built in your brain will melt away slowly. Of course, it takes time, but once you stop repeating it, stop, forcing it, it will slowly on its own disappear if you just choose a different path. Let's see what we have in the chat box there. Are there some other concrete examples how to practice or try out opening mindset towards this growth? Yes, absolutely, there are, and I have the book here somewhere as well, so I can give you in the material that I'm sending afterwards. Again, I can give you some kind of ways of practicing growth mindset. This adding yet is my favorite, really. But of course there are others as well, so I can give you some when I send you my material afterwards. Good question, thank you. So right, but this was actually just my kind of intro today to today's theme, because then if we now move along, is that, as I said here now, if we have fixed mindset and we have our negativity bias and then adding neuroplasticity, and this picture you remember from the last time, that our inner voice keeps repeating these things, well, then the downward spiral is, or at least, if not downward, but at least this kind of feeling that there is no way out. Maybe it's not going downward, but it's, going on its place, so that we are not moving forward. It can become quite overwhelming. And this everything kind of comes together very much in something that is called our inner voice. That how are we talking to ourselves? What is the kind of the voice that you are hearing? What is the tone of voice that you are addressing to yourself when you are leading yourself in your life? And we have this, even if we would not be so aware of our inner voice, but we have this kind of the thoughts that we keep on saying to ourselves and repeating to ourselves, and how we kind of guide ourselves in our daily lives and so on and so forth. That's called our inner voice. And most often, unfortunately, that inner voice is quite unpleasant or negative, if you like. And for example, the kind of the sentences that you can see here on the picture. And my inner voice, my inner critic, its favorite is the middle one there, I'm not good enough. Or actually, not enough is what my inner voice keeps saying to me. It's like I would have this mini me here on my left shoulder, sitting here and whispering to my ear all the time that I'm not enough, or whatever I do is not enough. For example, also here today, as I'm giving this this presentation to you guys, the inner voice, inner critic is sitting here and saying to me that, okay, you are not moving forward now fast enough. You are not keeping your audience, hooked enough. You are not speaking clearly enough. You are not explaining the theories enough. So the inner critic is all the time there, and it really is, I'm not kidding, it's there kind of observing what I'm doing in a kind of judging manner, in a critical manner. It's like this, yeah, okay, not enough. I can just see myself, a mini version of myself sitting there and being displeased, and that's, that's human. I'm guessing that you also all have your little inner critic sitting on your shoulders, and actually this has also been studied and researched, and there was this one research that divided our inner critics into 3 different categories: insufficiency, worthlessness, and the demand for being perfect. And I'm, by the way, loving this picture here in the middle. There's Shakespeare writing one of his sonnets or poems or plays, and then it says that even Shakespeare had an unreasonable inner critic. So he goes, oh my God, this is absolute crap. So, we all have our inner critics. But okay, so the 3 different areas of inner criticism can be, for example, according to this study, insufficiency, and that's my inner critic. I'm not enough. And then just fill in the blank, depending on the situation. There's always something that I am not enough. Be it, I'm not skilled enough, I'm not believable enough, I'm not experienced enough, I'm not old enough, or in some cases, I'm not young enough, or I'm not, fast enough, or I'm not present enough, or I'm not, just pick and choose. So you can, depending on yourself and your situation and your thoughts about yourself, there's always something that we are not enough. So that's one category of inner criticism, so feeling that you are insufficient. Then another part is perfection, that I can't, because I can't do it perfectly. Well, then, no, this is very much a fixed mindset that I won't learn. Somebody will anyways be better at it than me, so I don't want to, lose my face. I shouldn't even try, or if I tried, well, somebody will notice that I can't, and there we are then I've failed. So instead of failing, it's better to not even try. If I can't do it perfectly, I'm not going to do it at all. And that can also be your inner critic. Don't go there because you will not succeed, And then the 3rd category, worthlessness, that I'm not worthy. Why should I get that position or that raise or that grant or whatnot? What do I imagine? Who am I to say this? Who am I to write this article or whatever? Who would be interested? And if something goes wrong, then it's my fault, of course, because, me, myself, and I. And now as I'm looking at this, I actually realize that my inner critic now picks from each and every of these categories, depending on what it is the question about. So it's good to be aware of these and notice that this is how we easily talk to ourselves unknowingly. But then another thing that is important to realize here is that the inner critic may have a good intent. Maybe the inner critic is trying to protect me, or keep me safe, or help me in some ways. So the kind of demand for perfection, for example, now I can't remember if I said it to you guys the last time or not, but I have this dream that I would like to write a book about these themes that I teach. And I already have started many times, but I haven't come very far thanks to my inner critic. But the inner critic, what comes to the book, the inner critic is all over this field. So I'm not, skilled enough or, experienced enough to write that book. I can't do it perfectly, so I shouldn't even try. And who would even want to read my writings, So all the categories are covered there. But then also the inner critic may have some good intent there that are you really sure that you want to write? Are you really sure that you want to give your thoughts out to the world so that whoever can criticize what you were thinking, and you may get hurt, and you may get feedback that you don't want to have, or you need to show your vulnerability or whatnot. So the inner critic may be trying to protect me, but its means are not the best possible, because through trying to protect me, it's actually hindering me from even trying. And that's where we're trying to find the kind of the threshold that what is good protection, what is good kind of inner guidance, and when is it turning towards inner criticism that is not helpful, that is not bringing me forward. And it tolerates to think about this a bit, that first of all, what does my inner critic say to me? What's the message it's giving me? And what's maybe the good intent behind that? Could I maybe find that good intent and take that with me, but then, ignore the rest, so to say. So what we are trying to do, and what the self-kindness part of self-compassion means, that we try to choose a new inner voice. But really, this is also important, that we can never truly get rid of the inner critic, because you can't just decide not to think those thoughts. The more you are trying to not think about something, the stronger those thoughts probably will become. So instead of trying to avoid that inner critic, we instead take another inner voice. Now this time a compassionate inner voice here to our other shoulder. And for me, when I have been thinking about this and really working on this, I've been kind of trying to think back to my life, to moments where I felt that I was enough, because as my inner critic most often says that I'm not enough. Well, then when do I feel that I am enough? When have there been moments in my life when I have felt truly, fully being enough? And for me, luckily, I have many such moments in my life, but the strongest emotional memory is from my childhood and my grandmother, because for her, I was always enough. Just the fact that I was me was enough, and it was perfect, and it was lovable, and it was, she just accepted me truly and fully for what I was, regardless of what I had done or had not done, or thought or not thought, or how I looked, or how I, whatever. Just pure me was enough for her. And I can even now, as I'm talking about that, I can get that sensation, that warmth in my body, and that joy, actually, of being loved and accepted. So I can kind of get that sensation back just by thinking about it. So now then, I've been practicing this inner self-compassionate voice through thinking about my grandmother and how she accepted me. And now I have this other inner voice here on my other shoulder whispering to my ear that maybe it's possible that you are enough. And you tried your best. And even if you failed at this, you as a person still are enough. So now of course, I'm not really hearing any voices, but to give you a picture, so there are kind of these two different voices. There is the inner critic, and especially on days when I'm tired or overwhelmed or sad, or I've had an argument with somebody, well, on those moments, the inner critic is quite loud and clear. But then I also can remind myself of the fact, but maybe I am enough. Maybe this is enough what I'm trying to do. Maybe I can still be happy and content with myself, even if the day wasn't perfect. So it's like a chess game, if you like, where you have your blacks and your whites, but you are not there actually moving them, but you are the chess board. You are just observing the chess game happening and kind of listening for both of the voices, and then maybe trying to help the self-compassionate voice to be the louder one. Or maybe if you have this self-critical voice, well, then you talk back with a self-compassionate voice. And you create this discussion between those different voices, and you can say to the inner critical voice that thank you for taking care of me. Thank you for being on my side. Thank you for protecting me. I heard what you said, but I'm still going to try. I'm still going to, write the first pages of the book and see where it takes me, So creating this dialogue, if you like, between those two, so that you would not be guided by your inner critic, so that you are not even aware of it. You are just so used to thinking along those patterns and looking at those through those glasses that you don't even notice that it's actually only thoughts. And you don't need to believe everything that you think. And that's really it. So how could I notice those self-critical thoughts and think back in a kind manner, showing kindness towards myself? Any questions or thoughts so far? Let's see, we have something in the chat. Routines and habits, similar to fixed routines, are tasks we do repeatedly all the time, and usually we don't want to change them. Yeah, I would say that routines and habits are not the same as fixed mindsets, because routines can be good. We can have good routines that actually do save us time and effort, and so you can have good routines. Mindsets are more things that are hindering you from doing something. And it can go hand in hand with routines, in the sense that if you are kind of sticking to a routine because you think that I'm too afraid to try something else, or it's never going to work anyways, or something, well, then your mindset is kind of restricting you from changing your routines, given that you would like to change that routine. But if you have good routines, that doesn't have to have anything to do with mindset. So I would say that no, that they are not the same. A quick answer. Okay. All right. But let's now take a break. And then when we come back from our break, we are going to do an exercise. And for the exercise, it's an exercise in self-compassion. You will need paper and pen. So please grab your notebook or just a blank paper, but you will need, so that you have 2 pages. Let me show here if I have any empty pages. Like this, as in the picture. You will need 2 pages. So grab a notebook where you have left and right page blank, or then you can just take a piece of paper and fold it in the middle so that you have 2 pages. But please see to that during the break you will take a pen and paper with you, and then when we come back from the break we will do an exercise where we need those pens and papers. So welcome back from the break. And now we are going to dive into an exercise in self-compassion. Let's see now. So, as said, you will need paper and pen. And I will first explain this exercise to you, and then we will do it. So this is an exercise in 3 parts. The first part is a written one. Then the middle part is a short meditation. And then the third part, again, a written exercise. And we will do it so that the first part will be that you will write on the right-hand page of your book. I will then tell you what to write, but first you write here on the right-hand page. And then for the middle part, you put aside your pen and paper, preferably upside down so that you don't need to look at it at all. And then for the final part, you pick it up again, and then you continue writing on the left-hand side. So you first write here on the right-hand side, and then the last part here on the left-hand side. That's why you need 2 pages. And I will guide you through the whole thing, so you don't need to, now worry about what to do at what point. What I want to say is that now, as we are doing this remotely and I can't see you all, I need to kind of evaluate the time that we use for these different phases of the exercise. So we are going to use approximately 5 minutes for the first writing part, and then we'll do the meditation together, and then again 5 minutes for the other writing part. Now, if you are ready before the time is up, you're ready before 5 minutes, please stay within the exercise anyway. So don't dive into your emails or your social media or whatever, but you can just, for example, close your eyes and rest within the exercise, because if you do something else in between, you will kind of lose the drama, so to say. So try to stay within the exercise and resist the urge to do something else with those minutes. And often I've noticed that if you just allow yourself to just sit there and listen to your thoughts, you maybe want to write something, you kind of come to think about something else that you want to add. So it's good to give yourself a little bit of space there and just sit. On the other hand, if you are not ready within the 5 minutes, don't worry, you can always go back to that and fulfill your text later. So I've come to that 5 minutes, it's a good kind of average. And then another important thing is that we are not going to share these afterwards in any ways. So you will not need to tell to anybody what you have written ever. So you can really be brutally honest and open and vulnerable if you want to when you do this exercise. So it's only for your eyes, and we're not going to ask anybody what you wrote. So you can feel safe in that. And I will guide you through it, so you don't need to follow the watch or clock or anything. Just listen to my instructions and really try to stay within that. And now the first part of the exercise is that, let me click back to here. If you are having a bad day, and you are feeling like the person here, you're overwhelmed or you're tired, you maybe have failed, you have made a mistake or something, and your inner critic is talking to you loud and clear. The first part of the exercise is to write on the right-hand page what your inner critic says to you. But before we go to that, let me read a short, I found the book on mindsets, and I will just read you a short text about what one person has said about their inner critic. When I'm under pressure, my fixed mindset persona or my inner critic appears. He fills my head with noise and keeps me from paying attention to the work I have to do. Then I feel like I can't accomplish anything. Feelings of anxiety and sadness also attract him. He attempts to weaken me when I'm already feeling down. He makes comments like, "You don't have the ability to grasp difficult concepts. You have reached your limit." So this is the typical inner critic that is loud and clear. It takes all the space in our mind and it talks to us in a belittling way or criticizing way or judging way. And now your task is to write on the right-hand page what your inner critic says to you. So what are the thoughts and the sentences that you hear or that you say to yourself when you're having a bad day or when you are overwhelmed. And just let it all come on the paper. You know, don't kind of criticize, don't think too much of it, just let it all come on the paper freely. In any format. It can be a bullet point list, it can be free text, it can be a drawing, it can be a mind map, whatever, but let it all come on the paper. And I will now be quiet for 5 minutes so you have the time to write. You have 1 more minute to write, but I just want to say that if you want to you can consider giving this inner critical voice a name, not your own name, but something that would describe that if it helps. Of course, you don't need to, but you can give it a name. You can then start putting aside your pen and paper right till the end, the sentence that you are working on, and then letting it be, maybe turning the paper upside down, letting go of it, and joining me in this short meditation. So straightening your back again a little bit, opening your chest, closing your eyes, finding a comfortable position, and breathing. And letting your breath guide you to the here and now, so that you let go of the things that you just wrote on the paper, and noticing that you are in the here and now, noticing the breathing happening in your body, noticing whatever is present right now. Just breathing for a little while, allowing yourself to land and ground in the here and now. And then I ask you to imagine a situation where you are walking on the street, and there across the street towards you walks a friend of yours, a really, really dear friend of yours. It can be a real friend or an imaginary friend, but anyway, somebody whom you really care for and who is important to you walks across you, and you meet there on the street. And you smile as you see this person, and you look at the person, and then maybe you give this person a hug, and then you say to them, "Oh gosh, it's so lovely to see you. It's been such a long time. How are you doing? Tell me everything." And then this friend of yours tells you everything. Their ups and downs, what they have been working with lately, what they have been thinking, what they have been feeling, how their health is, because you are near and dear, so you can share everything. And you would stand and listen, not judgingly, openly, kind of in a friendly way. You would just listen and really be there in order to hear what the other person is saying. Could you now imagine meeting yourself in the same manner? Turning towards yourself, really seeing yourself. Maybe there's a smile on your face. Maybe you can hug yourself and say to yourself that, "Oh, it's been such a long time when I the last time really saw myself and listened to myself. How am I doing? How am I really doing?" And then listen to your own answers. How am I actually doing? What have I been thinking lately? What has been taking my thinking space? Has it been mainly work related? Or has it been something about my family, home, relationship, friends, the global situation? What has been occupying my mind lately? And what have I been feeling lately? Have I been mainly happy, satisfied? Or have I been anxious, afraid, stressed? What kind of emotions have I been feeling recently? Or has it maybe been a roller coaster of emotions? And how have I been physically? How is my physical self? Have I been healthy and well? Or have I been ill or tired maybe? Or are there some tensions in my body? How have I been sleeping? And now, just as if this friend of yours would have told you everything that they have experienced lately and you would have been listening, you probably would then say to that friend that, oh, well, that was a lot. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being so open and honest. And I really, really hope that everything turns out fine. I hope that you get to be healthy and happy and have a good life, safe life. I wish you all the best. See if it would be possible now to have that same reaction towards yourself. Thank yourself for listening to how you are actually doing. And then wish yourself all the best. And we are going to do it through a few sentences that I'm going to say, and you can repeat them silently in your mind to yourself. And really, so that you are kind of wishing those things to yourself. So take in the meaning of these sentences and the idea that you are actually allowed to wish yourself all the best. May I be happy. May I be healthy and well. May I be safe. May I live a good life with the people I love. May things turn out okay for me. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. Now just feel what it awakens within you when you are wishing yourself all the best. And maybe noticing and realizing that you do not need to earn your own acceptance or compassion in any ways. You have already earned it. You're doing your best all the time, and that's enough. You don't need to suffer in order to be on your own side. May I be happy. May I be safe. And you might want to also consider, see if it's possible to just ask yourself that, what is it that is important for me today? We tend to rush through our lives from meeting to meeting and project to project, month to month, even year to year, always waiting for the next thing to happen or this phase to be over. But still, we are living each and every day only once. Also today, we are living only this once. So what is it that is important for you today? And what can you maybe let go of today? Are you carrying with yourself some memories or some beliefs, mindsets that are not helpful, that are not carrying you forward, and that you could let go of just today? And also, how could you show compassion towards yourself today? What could be your self-compassionate act? Maybe putting yourself into bed in time, maybe going out for a walk, maybe calling a friend, maybe thanking yourself. How could you show self-compassion towards yourself today? And then we're soon moving to the final part of this exercise. Listen first before you do anything. The final part is that you start writing on the right-hand page. Now on the opposite side, answers to the inner critic with the voice of your inner best friend or your inner grandmother or whoever is for you this self-kind, non-judging, accepting, loving voice. Writing and saying the things that you would need to hear, the things you would wish that somebody would say to you when you are feeling bad or overwhelmed, when your inner critic is shouting at you. What are the things that you would want to hear? And try to write them with the voice of your inner best friend. Kind of talk back to the inner critic. And you might want to, if you gave a name to your inner critic, you can also now here give a name to this inner best friend or inner grandmother, a name or a character, so that you really can, if you want to, create this dialogue between these two characters. So your task is now to write an answer to your inner critic with the voice of your inner best friend. What would you like to hear? What are the encouraging words or the forgiving words or the loving words that you would like to hear? And you have again 5 minutes, and I will mute myself for that time. Please, now you can go ahead. a few more seconds to go. So you can write to the end what you are writing right now. And then slowly, once you are ready, you can put aside the pen and paper, and we are ready with the exercise. Thank you, guys. Hopefully you got lots of text on your paper on both sides, not only the first page, but on the other one as well. As I said, we are not going to kind of share anything from this exercise because I'm guessing that some of the things that you wrote might be quite private, so you don't want to share those with others. But I'm going to say a few things in general about this exercise, and you're very welcome to comment if you want to. But first of all, one thing is to just now, as you have done the exercise, maybe after today's session, read again what you wrote from a little bit of perspective, and you know, just read what you wrote, and maybe somehow try to understand what you have written there. Are there some patterns? How is the inner critical voice? Often it tends to be, not always, but often it tends to be that the inner critical voice is, you know, kind of black and white, that you never, or you always, and why do you, and everybody else but you. And so it kind of, it isolates easily us from other people. And then again, the inner compassionate voice is more careful. It's not as giving as the other one. It's more like, well, okay, maybe sometimes you have been quite enough in certain cases. So that would be one thing to observe, that what's the tone of voice and what's the kind of the weight of those voices when you compare them to one another. And if the inner critic is really kind of painting with a big brush, why don't try that with the inner best friend as well, that to exaggerate that, you know, you're so enough that there's left over for others or whatever. So somehow, you know, paint with bright colors and big brush on the other page as well. Then also you might want to look at just the amount of text. Was it easier? Which one was easier? Where did you get easily a lot of text, and where did you not? And I would recommend that you try to have at least as much on the left hand, the second page, as you had on the first page, or left or right, how was it? But anyway, so that you have, if it was easy for you to write the critical thoughts, try to, you know, have as much text on the compassionate side as well, so that you kind of balance them out. So if you did not already get as much text, you might want to continue. And then if you gave a name or names to those voices, that's maybe something you can take with you. And that's, by the way, also has to do with these mindsets, as you were asking about the other kind of tools for switching from fixed to growth mindset, is really to give names to these different inner voices or mindsets. And then maybe you notice that, okay, now it's the inner critic. You know, for me it could be what should I say, my inner critic could be Heidi. I don't know where it came from, but maybe because in my childhood I had this friend that was kind of putting me down all the time, and her name was Heidi. So my inner critic could be Heidi. So now, okay, Heidi is speaking to me again. Okay, oh, look at that, Heidi is back. And then my inner self-compassionate, that's my grandmother, obviously, for me. So I can kind of, you know, give a shout to my grandmother. Hey, Granny, Heidi is here again. Can you come and talk to her? So kind of, if you give these names or these images to these characters, it might help you. It doesn't work for all, but if you gave those names, you might kind of consider, you know, playing with those as you notice the inner critic talking to you the next time. And then at least what you can do is that you save the second page, the compassionate page, save it, put it somewhere where it's easy to find. And whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, go back to that. Take it out and read it. Read it out loud to yourself. Say to yourself the things that you want to hear and need to hear. And don't save it for urgencies, but really use it, or put it somewhere on your your wall or fridge door or wherever. So remind yourself of how lovable you are, and how perfect, how imperfectly perfect you are, and how enough you are. So bring that to your life. Bring that, take that with you, so that you now have the list there. You have the things that you found that you would want and need to hear. So use it. Let yourself, drown in it. So take that with you from this exercise. Any comments? Well, I'm trusting that you still have lots, lots has happened in your minds when you did the exercise. Let's see now, where's my, okay, we get something in the chat. Thanks for the exercise. Thank you, Muhammad. Lovely. Okay, another thing that I want to just say here before we close today is that we all have these inner critical voices or these fixed mindsets. So don't blame yourself for that. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that, oh my God, now everybody else has, kind of has gotten rid of their inner critics, and I didn't manage to do that. I'm a failure. So you kind of you keep on adding to that. So we all have that. It's natural. It belongs. It's a part of being human once again. So what we're more are trying to do is to become aware of that and add that self-compassionate voice and kind of balance those two. Okay. And what I would like you guys to do before the next time would be to continue using the Andas application. You can move forward on the exercises. As I said the last time, there are 12 exercises, so you can do whatever you want of those. But you can also try other applications, and one of my favorites is called Budhify. You can find it in the App Store free of charge. And there's this kind of wheel, and you just push on the wheel and then it opens, and you can choose depending on the situation where you're at. It's kind of a situational mindfulness. So depending on if you are waiting for somebody or traveling or anxious or not being able to sleep or whatever, so you can choose situation and then again push there and it opens another wheel, and then you can choose between different exercises. So there's a huge amount of exercises to explore. So that's really one of my favorites, in addition to the Andas application. But the Andas is really, it's a short list of my favorite exercises. Budhify has lots and lots of more. So that's a good one. Another good application is called Calm, but I have the feeling that it's nowadays you need to pay for it, at least the kind of the full version. But Budhify should be free of cost. So try that out. And then I'm going to send you an article about these things that we have been discussing here today. It's just 2 pages, not long, but if you could find the time to read that article, it's again a little bit, more diving more deeper into this. And then the most important exercise for the coming weeks would be to talk kindly to yourself for at least one day. Preferably, of course, every day, but at least one day, and really do this on purpose, that you pick a day, and when you wake up that morning, you decide that today is the day when I'm only going to talk kindly to myself. I'm going to notice my inner critic, my Heidi or whoever it is, and I'm going to talk kindly to myself. Deliberately, consciously going to do it the whole day. And I have a page about it here. So kind of changing your inner dialogue. So if you are kind of blaming yourself for something, for example, if it's something you wouldn't say to somebody else, well, don't say it to yourself either. So you can kind of learn to become aware of that would I really like to talk like this to somebody else? And don't I deserve the same care I give to others? So why am I talking to myself in this manner when I would never say it to anybody else? And then if you tend to label yourself, oh God, I'm so stupid, or I'm such a failure or something. Is it really true? Am I really stupid just because I didn't understand this and that? Or am I really, truly and fully unlovable because my relationship ended or whatnot? These are, of course, examples, but you get my point here. We tend to easily label ourselves. Again, we would never do that to anybody else. Say that a friend of yours is kind of ending a relationship and you would go, yeah, but that's because you are unlovable. You're never going to find anybody because you're that way. We'd never say that to anyone else, but to ourselves. And then, is it helpful? What you are saying to yourself, is it helpful, or are you just punishing yourself? Are you, does this help you in any ways? Is it valuable? Is it motivating? How could you talk to yourself in a manner that is really motivating, encouraging, strengthening, that you are on your own side? So the task would be to pick a day when you are deliberately paying attention to how you are talking to yourself and choosing to talk kindly. And just observe what that does to you, how that day feels. How do you feel? How do you behave? How do you, interact with other people? So trying to change your inner dialogue. This is the most important task for you the upcoming week. So try to really do this and just begin by one day. Don't make it a huge effort that now I need to be kind to myself forever and I can never. Don't make it that. Just begin by one day. And if it feels good, then you maybe can pick another day too. But let's start with one day. Okay? Let's see what we have in the chat box. Yeah, good. Thanks for the comment here. But okay, so those are your exercises. Using any mindfulness application, trying to get that into your routine, because mindfulness, as we know, is the prerequisite for being self-compassionate. So that's why I'm emphasizing that. Reading the article that I'm sending you shortly, and then the most important one, talk kindly to yourself. And this is my final picture for today. Treat yourself as if you already are enough. Walk as if you are enough. Eat as if you are enough. See, look, listen as if you are enough, because it's true. Thank you guys for today. Hopefully you are feeling enough and also nourished for today. I will send you the recording and all the materials tomorrow probably. And as always, I'm here for your questions also via email if you want to. But for now, I thank you and wish you all the best for the rest of the week. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.